Have you a definite plan for meeting your difficulties? There is a way to overcome your obstacles.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the voice of Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, your friendly advisor on the art of living. The National Broadcasting Company and its independent affiliated stations make free time available to present the art of living in cooperation with the Federal Council of the Churches of Christ in America. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale is the leader of this weekly series of discussions, and today he tells his radio friends how to overcome obstacles. Dr. Peale's talk was transcribed earlier, especially for presentation at this time. If you wish to obtain a complimentary reprint of Dr. Peale's talk, do not hesitate to send a postcard or letter request to him in care of the station to which you are listening. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Dr. Norman Vincent Peale.
Would you like to have a formula to help overcome and remove your obstacles? Here is one that worked for one man. Many others have tried it, and it works for them also. But let me tell you about it. The board of directors of a rather important industry had a project under consideration which involved considerable expense and some chances of failure as well as of success. Whenever anything of a positive nature was suggested, one man would invariably say, "Now, just a moment. Let's consider the obstacles involved." Another man who said very little, but who was respected by all for his achievements and ability, and for a certain indomitable quality which always characterized him, presently spoke up and asked, "Why are you constantly emphasizing the obstacles in this proposition instead of its immense possibility?" "Because," the pessimist replied, "to be intelligent, one must always be realistic. And it is a fact that there are certain great obstacles in connection with this project. What attitude would you take toward these obstacles?" The other man unhesitatingly replied, "What would I do about these obstacles? Why, I would just remove them, that's all, and then I would forget them." "But," said the other man, "that's easier said than done. Have you any technique for removing obstacles and for forgetting them that the rest of us have never discovered?" A slow smile came over the face of the quiet man as he said, "Son, I've spent my entire life removing obstacles. If you want to know how to do it, I will show you." He then reached into his pocket, took out his wallet, under the isinglass window of which was a card on which were written some words. He shoved his wallet across the table and said, "There, read that. That's my formula." The pessimist picked up the wallet and, with a strange look on his face, read the words. "Read it out loud," urged the owner of the wallet. And this is what he read: "I can do all things through Christ, who strengtheneth me." The owner of the wallet put it back in his pocket and said, "I've lived a long time, and I've faced a lot of difficulty in my time. But I've discovered in those words enough power to remove any obstacle." He said it with confidence, and being a very remarkable man who had overcome many odds, his words were convincing to the men around the table. So they put their project into operation, and despite the difficulties and the risks, it turned out a great success. The primary thing about an obstacle is not to be afraid of it. Believe that God is with you, and you have the power to handle it. So the first thing to do about an obstacle is to stand up to it and not complain about it or whine under it, but forthrightly deal with it. Don't go crawling through life on your hands and knees, half defeated. Stand up and face your obstacles. You'll find they haven't half the strength you think they possess. A friend of mine in England sent me a book by Winston Churchill. In this book, Churchill describes the British General Tudor, who was in command of a division of the British Fifth Army facing the great German assault back in March of 1918. The odds were heavily against him, but General Tudor knew how to meet an apparently immovable obstacle. He merely stood there and let the obstacle break on him, and he broke the obstacle. Here is what Churchill said about General Tudor. This is a great sentence worth its weight in gold. Here it is. The impression I had of Tudor was of an iron peg hammered into the frozen ground, immovable. General Tudor knew how to stand up to an obstacle. Just stand up to it, that's all, and don't give way under it. You will break it. Use that formula which the businessman suggested, and you will develop a powerful faith in God. As a result, you'll get a great faith in yourself, in your own ability, in your own power to do things. Your attitude will become positive, not negative, and the old master touch will come to you as you deal with your difficulties. Take the story of Gonzalez, who won the National Amateur Tennis Championship. It was a grueling battle which he fought. The sports writer, in analyzing Gonzalez, said he had a marvelous serve and a skillful volley, but the thing that won the championship was his staying power, and the further fact that he was never defeated by the discouraging vicissitudes of the game. There's a powerful sentence for you. He was never defeated by the discouraging vicissitudes of the game. That made this man a champion. It'll make you a champion, too. Get some real faith, and you, too, will have staying power. You will never be defeated by the discouraging vicissitudes of the game of life. But you may say, well, that sounds all right, but you don't know my circumstances. I'm as far down as a human being can get. Well, in that case, really, you are fortunate. For if you are as far down as you can get, there is no further down that you can go. There is only one direction you can go, and that is up. So your situation is quite encouraging. Try that formula of the businessman. Repeat it over and over to yourself. I can do all things through Christ who strengtheneth me. I'll guarantee it will work. To overcome your obstacles, cultivate positive thinking. That's the answer. Most of our obstacles are mental. You may say, mine are not mental. Mine are real. Yes, but your attitude toward them is mental. And what you think about them very largely determines what you do about them. If you think you can't, then you can't. If you think you can by some strange law of the universe, then you discover that you can. If you have been defeated by an obstacle, it is probably because you have been telling yourself for weeks and months and even for years that there is nothing you can do about it, that you are bound to be defeated. You have so emphasized your inability to yourself that your mind has gradually accepted that conclusion. So, what you must do is to get a new mental slant. Become convinced of your own power. When your mind becomes convinced that you can, then you can remove your obstacles. Some time ago, I played golf with a man who was not only a good golfer, but a good philosopher as well. As we went around the golf course, the game itself drew out of him certain gems of wisdom. I hit a ball into the rough, into some high grass, and said in dismay, "Now just look at that. I'm in the rough. I have a bad lie. I doubt if I can ever get out of this place." My friend said I wouldn't think that way about it. "Do you think you could get a good hit if this ball were lying out on the fairway on the short grass?" I replied, "Yes, I think I could." "Why could you do better there than here?" he asked. "Because the grass is cut short on the fairway," I said, "and the ball can get away better." He suggested, "Let's get down on our hands and knees and examine this situation and see just how this ball lies." So, believe it or not, we got down on our hands and knees. He said, "Now observe that the relative height of the ball here is about the same as it would be on the fairway. The only difference being that you have here about 5 or 6 inches of grass above the ball." Then he did a strange and whimsical thing. "Notice the quality and character of this grass," he said. He pulled off a piece and said, "Chew it." I chewed, and he asked, "Isn't it tender?" "Why, yes," I replied, "it certainly is tender grass." "An easy swing of your number 3 club will go through that grass and cut it like a knife," he said. Then he gave me this sentence, which I'm going to remember as long as I live. He said, "The rough is only mental. It is rough because you think it is. It is. You have decided that here is an obstacle which you cannot overcome. The power to overcome this obstacle is in your mind," he continued. "All you have to do is to keep your eye on that ball and tell yourself that you're going to lift it out of the grass with a beautiful stroke. Remember, the rough is only mental. Let the stiffness and tension go out of you and hit it with exhilaration and power." To this day, I remember the thrill and the sense of power and delight I had in the clean shot that dropped that ball at the edge of the green. Now, in life, we get into many rough places, and we're apprehensive and discouraged, and we think we do not have the power. Have faith in God. Get faith in yourself as a result. Think positively, and you can get out of the rough. Now, just a suggestion. Down the street is a church where they teach you how to have faith. Why not go there and learn about faith, about positive thinking? Why not go to church on Sunday?
Ladies and gentlemen, another program in the series, The Art of Living, has just been brought to you by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, your counselor on solving life's personal problems by the application of Christian principles to everyday living. If you would like a copy of Dr. Peale's talk for future study, do not hesitate to write to him in care of your local station. George Crook is at the organ. This is Robert Denton speaking. Free time has been given by the National Broadcasting Company and its independent affiliated stations to present this program in cooperation with the Federal Council of the Churches of Christ in America and associated city, county, and state councils of churches throughout the nation, and came to you from New York. Portions of the program were transcribed. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
Are you one of those unfortunate persons who worries a lot? Would you like to know how to stop your worries?
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the voice of Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. your friendly advisor on the art of living. The National Broadcasting Company and its independent affiliated stations make free time available to present the art of living in cooperation with the Federal Council of the Churches of Christ in America. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale is the leader of this helpful series, and today he has chosen to discuss the formula for eliminating your worries. Dr. Peale's talk was transcribed earlier especially for presentation at this time. And if you would like to have a personal copy of Dr. Peale's talk, to send a request to him in care of the station through which this program is reaching you. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Dr. Norman Vincent Peale.
Have you heard of a new club called the Wednesday Worry Club? I'm not sure who started this organization. In fact, it isn't an organization, for it has no officers, but it's increasing in membership every day. I think the man who first thought up the Wednesday Worry Club was Mr. J. Arthur Rank, the famous British picture producer. At least, I first heard about it from him. Mr. Rank, it seems, decided to do all of his worrying on Wednesday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He would do no worrying the rest of the week, but would save it all for 4 o'clock every Wednesday afternoon. Whenever a worry came to his mind, he would write it on a piece of paper and put it in a box to be worried about on Wednesday. All week long, he would scribble down his worries and put them in the box for the Wednesday session. Then on Wednesday at 4 o'clock, he would open the box and take out his worries. He discovered that usually most of the things he was worrying about just didn't matter anymore. In fact, most of them hadn't happened anyway. So he just threw them in the wastebasket. But there were a few worries still hanging fire. So what did he do with them? He put them back into the box to be worried about next Wednesday afternoon at 4 o'clock. If you would like to join, get yourself a box and start today. I would be very glad to hear from you, telling me that you have enrolled in our Wednesday Worry Club. I really would advise you to join it, because if you are a worrier, you are in a rather dangerous situation, and that is something that you really ought to worry about. What I mean is that lots of people are making themselves actually sick with worry. A famous psychiatrist, a good friend of mine, Dr. Smiley Blanton, says that worry is the great modern plague. Another psychologist has said that worry is the most disintegrating enemy of human personality. A physician tells us that about 70% of his patients are afflicted to one degree or another with worry. Another doctor says that thousands of people are sick because of what he calls dammed up anxiety. That is, anxiety that has not been released and which turns inward and causes physical and emotional sickness. I understand that the Mayo Clinic made a study of 176 business executives around the average age of 44 and discovered that 1/3 of them were victims of heart disease, ulcers, and high blood pressure. And the chief cause was worry and tension. My good friend Mr. Dale Carnegie is responsible for the above statistics, and he also quotes other doctors who cite 4 possible causes of arthritis: financial disaster, loneliness, worry, and resentment. So you see, worry can do you a great deal of harm. Let's consider how to stop your worries. I give a lecture frequently around the country to various business organizations and other conventions on the general topic, how to break the worry habit. One night I lectured to a certain convention and talked 45 minutes on worry. Afterward, a young man came up and was kind enough to say a few pleasant words about my speech, but he said, "I can give you one sentence that is a sure cure for worry. And you can use this in your next speech, and it won't be necessary to talk 45 minutes. When I heard it, I agreed with him. For that one sentence is a sure cure for worry. And here it is. I sought the Lord, and he heard me and delivered me from all my fears. Put that idea at the center of your thought processes, and in due time, it can eliminate your worry. You'll find that in the 34th Psalm, the 4th verse. That is really quite a sentence, isn't it? That sentence means, get your mind on God. Keep thinking about him. Pray to him. Have faith in him. In other words, change the pattern of your thoughts from anxieties to faith. Then faith will so completely dominate your thoughts, developing such strong inner confidence that you just cannot be a victim of fear anymore. So, your worries will be ended. Put your trust in God. Go ahead, do your best, and things will usually turn out much better than you expect. Give in to your worries. Spend your time worrying about all the dire things that may happen, and there's a strange law of the universe that these things will likely happen. You can worry yourself into just about what you're worrying about. On the other hand, decide to go ahead despite your worries, and the chances are your worries will finally drop away from you. The thing which you feared will become less and less likely to happen. A baseball magazine carried a story about a great pitcher who overcame a very serious worry, something which could have floored him. But he resolutely put these worries aside, and as a result, things would have life. If I decide to go on, I will know that if I get through one game, then that is one game more. If I play a second game, then I have 2 games. I can quit and live being afraid all the time, or I can just forget my fears and pitch baseball, which I love to do. He decided on the latter, and so well did he pitch that in his next 3 seasons in big league ball, he won 80 games, which marked him as a top star. His name is Hal Newhouser. He pitches for the Detroit Tigers and is one of the greatest pitchers of our time. Strangely enough, the doctor now says his heart is better. He could have been an invalid, have been pushed around in a wheelchair, but he did something about his worries. Instead of worrying, he met the issue, and once having made a decision, he just went ahead and did his best, without fear. Your faith can help you stop worrying. 2 doctors recently said that they were very much concerned about the problem of worry as it affected their patients. One of them, a young doctor, said, "When I returned from Army service, I found that a great change had come over people. They'd become more nervous. Most of them had fears and anxiety. I found, as a matter of fact, that quite a large number of my cases were caused by worries and resentment and guilt. I soon realized that I couldn't very well cure my patients merely by giving them medicine, although, of course, that is important. Personally," he explained, "I believe that Christianity is a scientific method of healthy and happy living. Therefore, I began to prescribe to my patients that the way to health and well-being was to practice their religion, for that would bring them quietness of mind, inner peace, and confidence." Another doctor told me about a woman patient who was an intelligent person, but exceedingly nervous. She was filled with worry, and it brought on a pronounced state of insomnia. The doctor gave her sedatives, but they only partially solved the problem. Finally, knowing that she was a religious person, he told her simply to practice real faith. He urged her to put her trust in God, to leave everything in God's hands, and to do the best she could, having confidence in God's guidance and protection. But she said, "When I turn out the light at night, my fears just seem to crowd in upon me, and sometimes I become almost terrified. The doctor said, as a physician, I prescribe that you practice thinking about God. That will help you lose your fears. But her mind was so tortured with worries that the doctor had to use a little scheme to help her. He said, at whatever time of the night it may be when your worries strike you, if you feel you would like to do so, call me on the telephone, and while I will not come to see you, I will talk with you on the phone. So one night she did telephone him, and in a quiet voice he reassured her, saying, remember what I told you. God is with you. Go back to sleep, for everything is all right with God watching over you. Some night later, in her fright, she called him again. Doctor, I'm terribly frightened. And he replied soothingly, never mind. Never mind. It's all right. God is with you. Be quiet and go to sleep. And she was able to do so. Several times she called him, and then the space between the calls lengthened until finally, one day, the doctor said, you are learning a great lesson, a very great lesson, which is that you can pick up a little instrument, dial a few numbers, and hear my voice, and it quiets you. In the same way, you can pick up a book, a very old and reliable book. You can dial a few words and listen, and you will hear another voice, far more helpful than mine, far wiser, and that voice will quiet you. She was an intelligent lady, and she caught on to the doctor's ingenious device. This interesting suggestion made by a modern doctor is just what the psalm in the Bible is saying to us. Here is a medicine that may heal you if you will take it. Heal you of your worries. I sought the Lord, and he heard me and delivered me from all my fears. And now, just a suggestion. These effective and workable techniques for counteracting worry are taught in that church down the street. Every Sunday, the minister outlines workable procedures to help you overcome your worries. So, why not go to church on Sunday?
Another program on the Art of Living series has just been presented with Dr. Norman Vincent Peale at the microphone. Dr. Peale's counsel today was on the formula for eliminating your worries, copies of which may be obtained by sending a postcard or letter request to the Art of Living in care of the station through which this program is reaching you. George Crook is at the organ. This is Robert Denton speaking. Free time has been given by the National Broadcasting Company and its independent affiliated stations to present this program in cooperation with the Federal Council of the Churches of Christ in America and associated city, county, and state councils of churches throughout the nation, and came to you from Radio City, New York. Portions of the program were transcribed. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.